Yo, what's up everybody? Rage Cage 20 here, back with another Mr. B story, Mr. Ballen. Today, we have teen gets pushed into brutal death trap. Sounds fun. I mean, not for the teen, unfortunately, but it sounds like a fun story. Sounds like a very interesting story. Hopefully not a triggering story. So, I woke up this morning, this afternoon. I was like, you know what? I want to start the day with the Mr. B story. So this is what we're going to do here today. I'm excited to get into it and find out what crazy thing happened here. Now, the one thing that I heard was in the 80s, and it looked like it was out in the woods. Yeah, it looked like out in the wilderness or something. So I can only imagine what kind of brutal death trap this could be. Let's find out together. Mr. B, take it away. Give me something great today.
In 1985, a group of hikers were making their way down a trail in this big forest in Southern California when one of them looked through the trees off to their side and they saw there was a stream running down parallel to the trail they were on. And in this stream, the hiker saw something that just didn't look right. And so the hikers left the trail and made their way down to the stream. And when they actually saw the thing that stood out to this hiker that was in the stream, they just stopped and stared at it. It would take investigators another 3 years before they would finally understand what the hikers had just found. But before we get into today...
The fuck? First off, if you're hiking and you look over and you see something that like doesn't seem right, maybe you just ignore it. You know what I mean? It sounds exciting.
Today's story. If you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place because that's all we do, and we upload once a week. So, if that's of interest to you, the next time the like button is having a bad day, offer to make them a cup of tea. But make sure you put the milk in before the water and use Splenda instead of sugar. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. Okay, let's get into today's story.
It's like such a small little subtle fuck you. Something in the water.
In 1985, 17-year-old Michelle Avila, who just went by the nickname Missy, was a high school junior living in the working-class town of Arleta, California, which is located just north of Los Angeles, California. Despite Missy being very physically small, she was under 5 feet tall and barely weighed 95 pounds. She had a big presence about her, and it made her very popular at her school. Not only was she incredibly beautiful, with boys and girls falling over themselves to try to win her affection, but also Missy was just very kind and gentle and didn't seem to take herself very seriously. But life for Missy was not all perfect. A year earlier, during her sophomore year, a nasty rumor had been spread around Missy's high school that Missy had apparently been sleeping with all of these boys who were in established relationships with girls in the school. And even though this rumor was a total lie, by the time the rumor reached the girlfriends of these boys that Missy had apparently slept with, these girls believed it. And so to get their revenge on Missy, one day after school when she had walked outside, this group of girls ganged up on her and beat her really, really bad.
Yeah. Man. You know, a lot of women blame like the media and blame men for the way society treats them and whatnot, or you know, looks at them, expects some certain things from them. Honestly, I mean, I don't know if it was a guy or a girl that started spreading these rumors or whatnot. No, yeah, my guess is, but as I've said many times, I like to blame men, but I feel that your biggest enemies is yourselves, like is other women. Other women seem to be more vicious towards women than men do. A good portion of the time, not all the time, but you know what I'm saying. And yeah, I actually was working with someone, a teenage girl, who got jumped by a bunch of other teenage girls and they beat her up. So she beat the absolute fucking shit out of one of their sisters or something like that. Just, it gets fucking, women get fucking brutal, man. like men will just beat each other up and then they'll be buddies. Women, like they go for the fucking throat, man. It was crazy shit.
Badly. In fact, the beating was so severe that when Missy came home, her family immediately pressed charges on the girl that seemed to kind of lead the attack. Her name was Sonia Vaughn. But despite Missy and her family immediately filing these charges, the case dragged for months and months and months. But finally, by October 1st, 1985, so at the beginning of Missy's junior year, Missy was within a week of actually going to court and taking the stand and testifying against Sonia. And while Missy was certainly nervous about going to court and testifying, she knew deep down she was making the right decision. On October 1st, so a week before Missy is set to testify, Missy came home from school and she told her mom that she had plans that afternoon to go hang out with her friends. This was fairly routine for Missy, who had a big circle of friends, and so her mother, Irene, told her that was totally fine, but you gotta be home by 6 p.m. Missy agreed, and then just a couple of minutes...
Are these friends gonna drown her? Something really bad's gonna happen to Missy here. I don't think she comes out of this one alive. And there's 34 minutes for it sounds like a pretty quick story. So I think there's gonna be some twists and turns up in this bitch. So I'm interested in that.
Later, a 17-year-old girl named Laura Doyle, who was very close with Missy, pulled up outside.
I was like, what, her friend or something? She looks like she's 30. Taking that at a later date. Got it.
Out of Missy's house, and she honked the horn.
Or 40.
So Missy heard her. She said goodbye to her mom and to her brother, and then she left the house, ran to Laura's car, hopped inside, and the two girls drove off. A few hours later, at 6 p.m., Missy had still not come home yet. However, her mother, Irene, was not that surprised. Missy was not really a troublemaker, but she really liked staying out with her friends, and so it wasn't that uncommon for her to stay out past curfew and then come home and ask for forgiveness, or she would stay out past curfew and then she would call her mother and ask for more time. And shortly after 6 p.m., the phone rang inside of Missy's house. And so Irene, she hears the phone ringing, and she's expecting it to be her daughter. And so she walks over, she picks the phone up and says, "Hello?" But it's not her daughter. It's another young girl's voice. It's Laura's voice, the girl who had picked Missy up after school to go hang out with friends. And before Irene could ask Laura why she was calling, Laura kind of awkwardly asked Irene, "Hey, is Missy home?" And Irene would say, "Laura,
she went with you, bitch.
You. Isn't she with you?"
The fuck you mean?
She's not here. She's running.
I'm back. Sorry about that. Yeah, dog was barking. And no matter that made me think maybe we got trouble. But I think the cat's just in a playful mood and was like clawing up the dog, and the dog's like, "Fuck this shit," and was like barking at him. So anyways, back to the story. Let's go back a tick here, make sure I didn't miss anything. So person who picks her up is calling, be like, "Hey, do you know where she is?" It's like, shouldn't you be the one who know where she is? Okay, I like this.
Laura kind of awkwardly asked Irene, "Hey, is Missy home?" And Irene would say, "Laura, she left with you. Isn't she with you?" "No, she's not here. She's running late. Why? What's going on?" After Irene said this, Laura began to panic, and then she proceeded to tell Irene what happened that afternoon while she was out with her daughter. She said after she picked Missy up, the two of them just kind of drove around town, which they did all the time, and then at some point they made their way over to Stonehurst Park, where Missy and Laura and a bunch of their friends would often go and hang out. And so they drove over to Stonehurst, they made their way into the parking lot, and as soon as they were in there, Laura began looking around for other cars that she recognized to see if maybe their friends were there. But after looking around, she didn't recognize any of the cars, and so Laura just reflexively began turning the car around to leave the park. But as she was doing that, Missy stopped her and said, "Wait a minute, I know the guys over there, I want to go say hi." And so Laura stopped the car and she looked in the direction that Missy was pointing, and on the far side of the parking lot lot were these two guys who appeared to be maybe in their late teens, early 20s. Laura did not recognize either of them, and they were standing outside of this blue car, a blue Camaro. Now, Laura was accustomed to Missy just kind of knowing everybody in town because everybody loved Missy and Missy loved everyone. And so this type of situation was not totally uncommon. However, Laura was just not very excited at the prospect of going and hanging out with these two total strangers to her. But she could tell Missy really wanted to, and so she turns to Missy and says, okay, you know, go out there, go say hi to them, and I'm gonna park and I'll meet you in a second. And so Missy, she hops out of the car and she begins walking over to these two guys and she's waving to them and they're waving back and smiling at her. And Laura, meanwhile, pulls the car into a parking spot, she throws it in park, and she's about to get out when she notices her gas gauge is below empty. And so she calls out to Missy, who's now halfway to these two guys, and she says, hey, I'm gonna go fill my car up with gas, and then I'll come back and I'll meet you. So Missy turns around.
You ain't gonna
and
meet
she's
her,
like,
man.
okay,
She
bye.
gone.
And so Laura puts her car back in drive and she pulls out of the lot and she heads into town to get some gas. A few minutes later, when Laura pulled back into the Stonehurst parking lot, she looked in the direction of where the blue Camaro and the two guys were and where Missy was headed, and they're all gone. Missy is nowhere to be seen. Now, this was 1985, so Laura could not just call or text Missy to see where she had gone. And so instead, Laura just sat in the park.
Which is good clarification to make, because people these days like, why don't you just call herself? It didn't have cell phones back in '85, so you know.
Parking lot, looking at the vacant spot where the blue car had been, kind of going over in her mind what she should do. And eventually she told herself that, you know what, Missy was a big girl, she can handle herself, she knew those guys, I'm sure everything is...
Well, first off, she ain't a big girl. She's like almost borderline dwarf size. Second off, like, you know, she just got almost murdered in a beat down. Like, that situation, I mean, I know it's been drawn out for a very long time and whatnot, and nothing else has happened, and so you're probably feeling safe or whatnot. And this is the 80s, where people weren't as paranoid as they are nowadays with this kind of stuff. But still, I'd be like, you know, yeah, that's one of those things. Is like I mean, you know, there's a lot of maybe negatives about technology and stuff, and you know how everyone's just glued to their phone and whatnot. But the fact that almost anywhere, anytime that you can kind of be able to call someone and get a hold of someone and find out where they are is really an amazing advancement in technology. Because in this situation, it's just kind of like, I don't know where she is. I have no way of getting a hold of her if she's not in a location to where she can have phone access. You know, it's just helplessness in that situation. But then again, back in the 80s, you know, and this stuff happened, obviously, but like, it wasn't so like, I feel like people are crazier and more murderier and shit than they've ever been in the history of time, but who knows, maybe that's not true. No idea. Anyways, continuing.
Just fine, and those guys will drop her off at her house when she needs to go home. And so even though Laura is telling herself this, she would leave the Stonehurst parking lot and spend a while just kind of driving around town looking for Missy and looking for this blue Camaro and these two guys. And after finding none of them, she would head home. And then right after 6 p.m., Laura picked up the phone and she called Missy's house because she knew Missy's curfew was 6 p.m. and so she should be home by now. But of course, when Missy's mother, Irene, picked up the phone, Laura would learn Missy had not come home. And so Irene and Laura are immediately really worried about Missy, but not to the point where...
Wait. Rethinking the beginning of the story now, where he said that hikers saw something and went over and investigated it. I think she's gonna be the something. I think Missy's dead body, probably bloodied and battered, is gonna be the something that they find. Now, I mean, this is like classic. I mean, again, still a good 20-some minutes. Any possible series of hooks can just come out of nowhere up in here. But it's really feeling like that classic. You know, I mean, first off, like, ladies, if you think your man's, because there's multiple ladies, so your man's was cheating on you, maybe you deal with them and not, I know it's the 80s, a little bit of a different time personality, but not be like, oh, well, let's go beat up the slut, I'm sure they would call her, that be fucking our mans, let's go fucking kill her and stuff. Like, why don't you deal with your man in the relationship? Now, I'm sure he's saying like, nah, I didn't do it. And like, yeah, she's very attractive from what Mr. Ballen's saying, and like everyone likes her and a lot of guys want to be with her and blah 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 blah. So it's very believable that she could be being passed around and stuff like that. But like, I don't know. I didn't know many girls like that in high school. Even girls that were a little promiscuous and had a lot of sexual relations. Like, at least in my school, they didn't get passed around the whole fucking school. You know what I mean? Like, no one was that loose. Especially back in high school and whatnot. So, at least that I knew of. Maybe, and who knows what was going on behind the scenes with all the jocks and stuff. I didn't really hang out with it or associate with it. But anyways. So, I'm just saying, like, you know, like, maybe get proof, evidence, deal with your man first before you decide, let me just kill this bitch. But then after that, you know, obviously I'm sure these are either guys, maybe of the girlfriends or whatnot, or know the guys that, you know, are having problems because the girls are mad at them for cheating and stuff, even though they didn't cheat. And so I assume these guys are thinking like, either are those guys or are thinking like, oh man, you get my man in trouble, you saying that you sleep with all these people and like blaming her and stuff, so they're gonna take her and gonna bring her somewhere that that these girls are gonna be waiting, and I think they're gonna just go take her out and kill her and some shit like that. As my guess of where this story is going, but again, we still got a lot of playtime down here. Who knows what twists and turns could be coming in this video at any point. Who knows? Even Laura, was that her name? Laura? She might even have something to do with it. This whole thing might be a red herring, and maybe it was like her boyfriend or something, you know, was also accused of cheating with her. So she's like, yo, I'm gonna take her out and we're gonna ambush her, and then I'm gonna pretend like, no, she got picked up by guys. I have no idea. I'm seeing the potential here. I'm seeing the potential here for this twist and turn.
Either of them think they should involve the police. Instead, Laura and Irene would spend the next couple of hours after that 6 p.m. phone call calling everybody they could think of that might know where Missy was. And when that yielded no results, Laura and Irene actually met up that night and began going door.
Yeah, Laura is looking pretty suspicious. ATM, you know. Oh, she went with me, but no, someone else got her. And oh, I'm gonna help you find her because I'm really concerned about my friend. It's always the one who seems the most innocent that is the most guilty.
To door to all of Missy's friends and acquaintances' houses, asking the occupants if they knew where Missy was. But by late that night, no one had given them any information about Missy's whereabouts, and so still feeling very concerned about Missy, Laura and Irene decided the best thing to do was just to go back home and go to bed and hope in the morning Missy turned up or someone contacted them with information about where Missy was. But the following morning, Missy had still not turned up and no one had heard from her. And so that morning, Irene went to the police and told them what was going on. Immediately, the police honed in.
Wait, 3 years? It took 3 years for them to find out what happened? Oh wow, this story is going to take a turn, isn't it?
On Laura and began going over every single detail of what that blue Camaro was doing, what those two guys looked like, you know, what did Missy say about these two guys? Did she get any information about where they might go or who these guys were? And Laura, I mean, she was totally guilt-ridden and emotional about being the last person to see Missy before she has apparently vanished. And she sat there trying to give every bit of information she possibly could about what had happened that day. But unfortunately, she was just too far away from these two guys and their vehicle. She could only give them a sort of basic physical description, which Laura even admitted was not very accurate because it was really far away, and frankly,
nah, Laura is Laura. I could just tell, like, oh, coincidentally, oh, she just happened. Oh, yeah, man, I was driving here the whole time, didn't even notice I was almost out of gas. Oh, yeah, go with the guys. There was no park. She didn't even bring her to the park. There was no guys. There was no Camaro. Oh, yeah, they were too far away. I somehow didn't recognize them. Oh, ooh, I didn't know who they were. Nah, it's Laura. It's a bajillion % Laura here. Unless there's another crazy hook coming in here, it's Laura.
She wasn't looking that hard. And so after getting all the information they possibly could from both Laura and Irene, the police launched a very extensive search all over Arleta, California, and the surrounding areas. And while they were doing that, Irene and other members of Missy's family, along with Laura and other close friends of Missy's, began their own search. But after a couple of days, neither the professional search nor the amateur search had turned up any new information about Missy's whereabouts or the whereabouts of those two guys and their blue Camaro. But then on October 4th, just 3 days after Missy went missing, Missy would be found. However, it would take investigators another 3 years to finally make sense of what actually happened to her. Based on eyewitness testimony, here is a recreation of what happened to Missy on the day she vanished.
Whew, it's crazy, man. This is crazy. Yeah, she dead. Oh, I know she dead, but let's find out what happened.
On that day, which was Tuesday, October 1st, 1985, Missy came back from school. She told her mother she wanted to go out and hang out with her friends. Her mother told her, okay, be home by 6. And then a couple of minutes later, Laura pulled up outside and honked the horn, and Missy ran outside, hopped in the car, and they drove off. The pair would drive around town for a few minutes before making their way to Stonehurst Park. Now, to understand what happens next, you need some context. Missy had two best friends. One of them was 17-year-old Laura Doyle, who she was with, and the other was another 17-year-old girl named Karen Severson. These three girls had met when they were in grade school, they lived basically on the same street, and they spent virtually every second of every day together. However, a month earlier in September, the trio had had a falling out, because a month earlier, another rumor about Missy sleeping with boys who had girlfriends began circulating around the school, except this time the girlfriends in the rumor were Laura and Karen. Now,
I mean, is your boy good or is your boy good? It's just, you know, putting it out there. Is your boy good? I don't know. Again, there's still a lot of playtime here. Things could change. This could be an obvious, you know, oh, you're supposed to figure it out, but...
Of course, Laura and Karen were well aware of the fact that a year earlier, Missy had been accused of something similar, and it had all been a big lie. And so going into this new rumor, Laura and Karen knew that the likelihood of it being real was very slim, but because this rumor directly involved them and their boyfriends, they felt a little concerned. And so Laura and Karen went to Missy, and they said, hey, we don't think it's true, but... Is it true? Did you sleep with our boyfriends? And Missy immediately is like, are you kidding me? No, I didn't sleep with your boyfriends.
Like, I mean, since it's not, like, coming out, maybe he's about to say it, I assume there's the easiest response would be like, I haven't slept with anybody. Virgin. But since that hasn't been revealed, I don't think that's true. But, I mean, hey, everyone's doing it in high school. Well, almost everyone. There's people that don't, but a lot of people are getting it on high school. So, you know, chance of someone being virgin still between the ages of 16 to 18, pretty, you know, pretty slim. But you know, it's just like that would be, it would just be like, guys, I haven't slept with anyone ever. Would be a good indicator that she's telling the truth, but who knows?
Did you see what happened last year? It's the same thing. It's a lie. It's just a rumor. I can't believe you would think I would do that to you. And so pretty quickly, this discussion escalated to a full-blown fight.
Why would it be a fight, man?
between the girls. Or more specifically, it turned into a full-blown fight between Karen and Missy. Because Laura, she was worked up about it, but pretty quickly she was able to calm down.
Right.
But Karen, she didn't calm down.
The Karens don't calm down. Like, yeah, y'all know Karens don't calm down.
Because apparently Karen had seen Missy at some point flirting with her boyfriend, and so when this rumor began to circulate, Karen felt like, you know what, it could be true. She might have had sex with my boyfriend. And so eventually...
So even if Laura, is it Lauren or Laura? I don't know. I can call her Laura. I wasn't paying attention. Even if she didn't kill her, she probably handed her off to Karen and knows what happened to her and knows where she is, and that's why she's guilt-ridden and whatnot. But also, leading the gonna find her thing, like no one's gonna know where she is because you two were the only ones who knew where she is. And you know that you're bringing her to the locations, but they're not going to find her body.
The three girls just stopped fighting, not because they had reached some sort of compromise, but rather because Missy just tried to turn around and walk away. And when she did, Karen wound up and slapped her across the face. And as soon as that happened, all three girls knew a line had been crossed, and
a little bit.
Decade-long friendship was potentially ruined. Yeah. Over the next couple of weeks, Missy and Laura were able to come together and patch things up, but Missy and Karen continued to avoid each other. However, the distance between them really wore on both of them, and so finally, on the morning of October 1st, Karen would reach out to Missy and she would apologize. And Missy...
it's a fake apology, Missy. Don't bite it.
Missy was really touched by this, and before long, Missy and Karen and Laura had made plans for that afternoon.
It's a trap. It's a death trap. No. Don't do it. Don't believe her. She lying. This bitch lying. No, it's a trap.
To meet up at Stonehurst Park to have a good day together, just like old times. So that afternoon, Laura picks up Missy from her house, and the two of them drive around for a bit before heading over to Stonehurst Park, where they're planning to meet Karen. But when Laura pulls the car into the parking lot, they look around and Karen is not there. And the blue Camaro and those two guys standing around it on the far side of the parking lot, they weren't there either. Because Laura had made up the blue Camaro.
I've seen a few of these. I'm starting to get the hang of how this goes. Whatever. It's just, ain't nothing but things. Whatever. It's fine.
And those two guys, they never existed. That was all just a big cover-up for what happens next.
Oh, advertising.
A few... Mr. Ballen. So Laura and Missy, they pull into the parking lot at Stonehurst, and they park in a spot and proceed to wait for Karen. And Karen would show up just a couple of minutes later. But when she showed up, all hell broke loose. Karen came flying into the parking lot and came to a screeching stop right up alongside Laura's car. Karen had parked her car so close to Laura's car that Laura literally couldn't open her door without striking Karen's car. And in Karen's car, in the passenger seat, which was closest to Laura's car, was a terrified-looking 17-year-old named Eva Cherambolo, who was friends with all three of the girls, and that day, Karen had apparently asked Eva to come over for dinner, but after picking Eva up, without giving her any explanation, she had flown over to Stonehurst and then came to this screeching stop right next to Laura's car. And so
why would I think Karen's thinking like a Karen at the moment. Why would you bring another witness if you're going to do something fucked up against that they're not on board and against their will?
Eva is sitting in the passenger seat looking at Karen and looking over at Laura, and Missy having no idea what's going on. And Karen begins yelling at Eva to roll her window down. And so Eva rolls her window down, and Laura and Missy are looking over in absolute astonishment. And then once the window is down on Eva's side, Karen begins screaming across Eva out the window at the car that Laura and Missy are in. And so Laura and Missy exchange totally confused looks, and then Laura rolls her window down, and suddenly Laura and Missy can hear what Karen is yelling. And Karen is hurling the most vile and horrible insults at Laura. not at Missy. It
What?
takes Laura a second to realize what Karen is yelling about,
what?
but once she realizes that Karen is just ruthlessly insulting her, Laura just turns and begins hurling insults back at Karen. And so the whole
What the fuck is going on here?
time, Laura and Karen are just screaming at each other. Missy and Eva are just sitting in their respective passenger seats, having no clue what's going on. And just as quickly as Karen had arrived and begun screaming at Laura, Karen put her car back in drive and sped right out of the parking lot. And Laura, at this point, is totally incensed and enraged at Karen.
I'm just imagining Eva and Missy just kind of like slowly like looking past the two people fighting at each other, just like, what the fuck's going on? Both of them just like, I don't know. What? I mean, as I mentioned before, first off, I know in high school it seems like the person you're dating is like the most important thing in the world, and like you'd never find love anywhere else, and like, you know, they're meant to be forever and whatnot. But to everyone out there, teenager or not, it's not the case. Like, it's not the case, people. Like, to everyone out there, despite whatever gender you are, whatever sex you are, whatever you are, there's a specific saying out there that you all need to subscribe to, and that is bros before hoes. All right, whether your bro be a girl, a guy, any of the awesome genders in between, no matter what they be, that's your bro, your friend. And who you're dating is not as important as your friend, because if that relationship does not work out, guess who's gonna be there for you? Your friend. All right. So in this specific scenario, girls, no, these men you're dating are not worth it compared to your friends and your friendship and whatnot. So if you think some cheating and stuff happening and whatnot, like, and your friend saying, yo, I didn't do it, the person you're dating is like, no, didn't happen and whatnot, like, stop taking it out on your friends and shit. Now, of course, if you find out later that they actually did do it, you know, I mean, that's, of course, a chance that they're lying or whatnot. But, like, the thing is, like, no dude is worth it. No chick is worth it to come in between your friendship, man. Like, fuck them hoes that you be dating both ways, male, female, whatever. Fuck them hoes. It's about your bros, alright? They ain't worth it. So stop fighting over this shit. Sometimes apparently literally to the death. Stop it.
For some of the things she had said. And so Laura fired up her car, threw it in drive, and before Missy could tell her otherwise, Laura had sped out of the parking lot after Karen. And for the next 45 minutes...
Was this, are they gonna kill Eva too? Did Eva sleep with someone? Allegedly sleep with someone? Like, was this all part of the trap? Like, was this all part of this is all part of the trap to lure her into a different location, so that, you know,
Karen and Laura drove like absolute maniacs north of the city up into the mountains, where the whole time they're driving, Karen is swerving side to side and she's speeding along these desolate roads, and Laura would speed up and get right on her bumper like she was experiencing this extreme case of road rage. Now, for the first few minutes of this, both Missy and Eva were desperately trying to get their drivers to calm down and just pull over. Whatever you're fighting about, it's not worth crashing and dying over. But little did Missy or Ava know, there was something much, much bigger going on between Laura and Karen. And so their requests to stop the...
I don't know if... I think they're planning something together. I think this is all part of the plan. I don't think they're actually that mad or whatnot. Or maybe they are. Who knows? But what did Eva do? I was Eva catching some... Like, dude, hormones are crazy, yo. Like estrogen, testosterone. the mood swings and crazy emotional bursts that come from just puberty and fucking just hormones and shit. Like, it make you do some crazy shit, man. Like, hormones are fucking batshit insane, man. That's all I'm saying.
Cars fell on deaf ears. Finally, after this 45-minute white-knuckle insane drive along these mountains.
Also, like, I know it seems maybe like go down the stairs a little backwards and whatnot, what have you, but like 45 minutes of this. Not a single police officer between that distance. Ain't no popo scope this. Now, what do police do? I mean, what do the police actually do? Anyways.
Roads came to an end when the road they were on kind of funneled them into this dirt parking lot in the middle of this huge forest. And as soon as they reached this parking lot, Karen came to a stop, and Laura narrowly avoided smashing into her and came to a stop right next to her. And as soon as the two cars were stopped, both drivers hopped out and were immediately in each other's faces, shoving each other, screaming at each other, just continuing this awful fight. Eva,
I think it's about to turn onto Eva and Missy. I think they want them to come out and try to stop them, and that's when they turn on them. Or they really are having a fight, and those two, unfortunately, are just going to catch some. But it's a trap. It's a death trap. So I think they're about to get turned on. I think this is all part of the plan.
just stayed in the passenger seat and did nothing. She was just hoping that whatever was going on would
my
eventually
problem.
end and they could leave. But Missy, she's looking out there at her two best friends who seem like they're about to kill each other. And so Missy decides she's going to get out and try to separate them. And so she begins to open her car door. And the second she does, both Karen and Laura, who were maybe 5 or 6 feet away from her car door, they both immediately stop fighting. It was like a switch had been thrown, and whatever was going on had come to a complete and total stop. And at the same time they have suddenly stopped fighting, both girls simultaneously turn and look at Missy. And before Missy could say or do anything, Karen and Laura ran over and positioned themselves right outside of Missy's door. So Missy could no longer shut the door, and Missy could not get out of the car. She was totally trapped. And as soon as Karen was in position right outside of the car, Karen kind of got down and got right in Missy's face, and with a very menacing and hissing voice, she looks at Missy and says,
"Recreation. Ah, deadly woman. Ah.
You know, this whole thing was a joke. Me and Laura, we weren't actually fighting. We're not mad at each other."
Is your boy good or is your boy good? You know what I mean? I'm just getting too good at these. I'm just getting too good at these, man. This is fucked though, dude. This is really fucked. They lured her out. What did Eva do? Is Eva also in on, like, either in on this? Is she another boyfriend that or she also accused of cheating with their boyfriends? They're gonna kill her too.
But we are mad at someone. We're mad at you. And then Karen and Laura would reach down and pull Missy out of the car, and they would slam her back up against.
She wasn't fucking. She wasn't fucking you. I mean, maybe she was. I don't think she was though. She wasn't fucking your boyfriend, man. Like, bros before hoes, you guys. Like, I was trying to remember what it was in. And was it Parks and Recs? It was like Ovaries before brovaries or something like that. Something like that. Like, come on, man. Like, you gotta have your girls back before you have, you know, come on.
Against the side of Laura's car, and then Laura and Karen pressed up against her and began screaming at Missy that she had slept with their boyfriends, and they knew it. And this whole time, Missy is trying to tell them, "No, I didn't. I did not sleep with your boyfriends. I don't know what's going on." But at some point, Karen and Laura were screaming so loudly, and they were right on top of her, that Missy just kind of began to shut down, and she went quiet and kind of tucked herself into a ball. And as soon as this happened, Karen and Laura, they grabbed Missy and they began pushing her away from the car towards a trail that led led into the forest. And Missy, she's 4'10".
Laura. Okay, so that one's Laura back in the day. Okay. So I didn't... It looked like this was like the after. Like this was the before and the after. But I guess that's just what Laura looks like. Huh. Guys, is this worth it? Is this worth it? Like... Anyways. Telling you, man, hormones. They're fucking nuts.
95 pounds. She's tiny. And Karen was 5'2", over 200 pounds.
Yeah, I was gonna say she's probably a little beefy, isn't she? Yeah, I see those shoulders.
And Laura was 5'6" tall and weighed 135 pounds. And so Missy knew she could not put up a fight. She had no chance against these two. And so Missy just kind of began shuffling her feet, walking towards this trail. And periodically, Karen and Laura would walk
The fuck's Ava?
up and push her to walk towards this trail. And as this is happening, Eva, who had been sitting in the car the whole time, she finally got out and kind of walked up behind the group, but didn't participate. She just walked along behind them. And so after a couple...
What the fuck is Eva doing in all this?
Couple of minutes, Karen and Laura had managed to push Missy all the way to the actual start of the trail, this narrow trail that left the parking lot. And at that point, Laura walked around Missy, so she was in front of her, and Karen stayed behind Missy. And the two girls ordered Missy to keep following them into the woods. And Missy did not put up a fight. She just put her head down and...
Yeah. You already got fucking jumped by a bunch of women and got the shit kicked out of you before. You know what's going to happen if you try to fight three of them. Like, even two of them, one definitely has the weight class advantage over you. Like, when you're fucking... When you're you do dwarf height, like, you know, I'm borderline, we're getting closer to gnome height. You ain't going to be able to fight that. Like, she's much taller than you, weighs over double you. Like, you don't win that fight. Like, you don't win that fight without serious training.
Continued walking along the trail behind Laura, with Karen behind her, periodically pushing her, and then several steps behind Karen was Eva, who just continued to do nothing. After the girls had walked for a little while on this trail and were out of sight of the parking lot, Laura came to an abrupt stop, and she turned around to face Missy. And by this point, Missy was genuinely terrified. She was crying, she had her head down, and she was just hoping that her captors were going to let her go. But once they stopped and Missy looked up at Laura wound up and decked Missy right in the face. And as soon as she hit Missy, Karen immediately jumped in. And before long, Missy was on the ground getting punched and kicked.
This girl just keeps getting fucking... It's fucking ganging up on me. I mean, again, she's dead. Like, she definitely dead. How bad do you think these girls feel after getting out of jail? Because if they found out what happened 3 years later, I'm pretty sure you still will go to jail for that. How bad do you think they felt about, like, what, whether it's 17, 18, like 20, 21, going to jail and finding out, oh, oops, she didn't actually fuck my boyfriend and I killed her? Like, how bad? I'm sure that in their head they'll probably just keep convincing themselves, like, no. Both my boyfriend and her were lying. She actually did. This was justified. I'm sure they kept convincing themselves that. But I'm hoping there's some kind of redemption swing in here at some point. It was like, oops. And they're like guilt-ridden and just, yeah. Guys, like, it's not worth it. Even if she did fuck your boyfriend, it's not worth it. Say, he's a piece of shit, you're no longer my friend, and move on with your life. But teenagers don't think that rationally. You know what I mean? They're just like, fuck that shit. I'm gonna kill this bitch. Yeah, man, hormones. You don't think straight.
And stomped on by Laura and Karen. And again,
Eva. Is there some point I'm gonna find out what the fuck Eva's doing there?
And Eva just stood there watching, doing nothing. Eventually, Laura and Karen would stop.
I'm just gonna assume that Eva's the one who ratted on them. because it seems like she has the biggest guilty conscience out of all of this, no matter what her place is in there. So I assume that's how it gets figured out, but takes her several years to break.
Beating Missy, and at that point, Laura would pull out a knife, and she would reach down and she would grab Missy's hair, and she began hacking it off. Missy was not a vain person, but she loved her hair.
She's got very nice hair. It's like feathered, it's coiffed. She's got good hair looking on there.
It had to be perfect anywhere she went. It was her prized possession, and Laura and Karen knew it. And so Laura, she begins hacking off the hair with her knife, and Karen, who wanted to get involved but didn't have a knife, just began grabbing Missy's hair and ripping it out with her fist.
Yeah, that person I talked about earlier, the guy in that fight, the first thing she said after she was talking about it, she's like, yeah, I lost a lot of hair. Women go for the hair, man. They go for the hair, and they are merciless, man.
Finally, after much of Missy's hair had been hacked off of her head, Laura and Karen stopped and just stood up and looked down at Missy, who was now in the fetal position, just crying to herself. But Laura and Karen were not done. At this point, they got out restraints, and they tied Missy's hands behind her back, and they gagged her mouth. And again, Eva did nothing. Once Missy was completely restrained, Laura got up and began walking towards a nearby stream that was about 10 feet away from them down a hill. And so Laura gets down to the stream. She wades in about halfway, where the water comes up about 8 inches on her leg.
They're gonna, like, water torture her, like start drowning her. They'd be like, confess that you did it. She's gonna make no idea, blah, blah, blah.
And then she turns around and she looks up the hill at Missy and Karen and Eva, who's off to the side. And Laura, while staring directly at Missy, she reaches down and begins running her fingers through the water and says to Missy, why don't you come down and get in the water with me? When Missy didn't move, Karen, who was standing next to her, hauled her up and then pushed her down the hill. And Missy doesn't, her hands are bound, and so she slams down on her face and she rolls down to the edge of the water, and there she stops. And before Missy can get up, Karen and Laura had descended on her. They'd grabbed her by the shoulder.
Laura looks a little crazy. Karen looks like someone I knew back in high school. Like, she looks innocent enough. God, the viciousness, man. The viciousness is insane, bro.
And they began dragging her out into the water. And so Eva, who's watching this happen, again does nothing and just turns around and begins running down the trail back towards the cars. When she gets to the cars, she discovers they are both locked, so she can't go anywhere, and she was too far away from anywhere to walk, and so her only choice was just to go back down the trail to where her friends were. And so Eva goes back to this trail and she begins...
Yeah, but you don't want someone what she's having, man. You gotta sit through it, you know what I mean?
Walking in the direction of the stream, and as she's walking, before she can see any of the girls, she hears a terrifying, blood-curdling scream coming from somewhere deep in the forest. And Eva was so terrified that she stopped where she was, she turned around, and she ran back to the cars. Eva would sit down on the ground between the two cars, and she would begin to rock back and forth. After nearly an hour of doing that, Karen and Laura suddenly emerged from the trailhead, soaking wet and laughing. Missy was not with them.
Yeah.
After Ava had turned around and run away from the stream to go back to the cars the first time, Laura and Karen had grabbed Missy, dragged her into the water, and laid her on her stomach in the 8 inches of water. And so Missy is trying desperately to keep her head out of the water, but Laura comes around and grabs her legs and presses them into the water, and then Karen comes around and grabs the back of Missy's head and forces her head down into the water. Missy would start fighting for her life, trying to wriggle her way out of the water, and at some point she would manage to get out from under their grasp, and as soon as her head cleared the water, she took in a big breath and then let out that piercing, horrifying scream that Ava heard as she was walking back down the trail, which scared her and caused her to run away again. And after Missy let out that primal scream, Karen readjusted her grip and pressed her head back into the water. Missy would continue to squirm and fight against Karen and Laura, and periodically she'd get her head up out of the water just enough to get a little gulp of air, and then she'd choke down a bunch of water and have her head pushed down into the water again. Until finally, Missy's strength just started to ebb. And when Karen and Laura sensed that Missy was on the verge of death and she was very weak, they seized the opportunity and they leapt off of her just long enough to run over to the side of the stream where there was this big, heavy log, which investigators would later determine weighed over 100 pounds. So it weighed more than Missy, and Karen and Laura, they'd pick this log up, they'd walk back.
God damn. Even for two of them, man. Like, that's really fucking heavy, dude. That's like really fucking heavy, man. How the fuck did they do that? God damn. They should have been in some sports or something, dude. They would have fucking done great.
Into the stream, and they dropped the log directly on the back of Missy's head, forcing it down into the water permanently. A few minutes after drowning Missy in the stream, Karen and Laura walked out of the trail. They got into their cars, Eva climbed into Laura's car, and the girls just left the parking lot and drove back home, leaving Missy in the woods. 3 days later, a group of hikers were in that forest near where Missy had been killed, and they spotted her body in the stream. When police arrived, they found cigarette butts, a beer bottle, and men's overalls lying out near where Missy was found. These items were there entirely coincidentally. They had nothing to do with what happened to Missy, but they somehow made the lie about Missy being with those two guys in their Camaro before she vanished.
Make more believable. So I want to make something I was thinking even when I said it at the very beginning of this video. I just want to make a correction just in case anyone was thinking of themselves. After I said, you know, like if you see something weird, maybe don't check it out, you know, in the forest or whatnot. Maybe that's a good idea. I know I did say sometimes, but that I did have the thought. I just didn't say it out loud. What happened is like, but you know, someone could be in trouble, or you know, could be like finding a missing person or something like that, either dead or alive or whatnot. So maybe not every time. That did occur to me. So you know, just putting that, making that amended statement there. It's just, you know,
seem more believable, mostly because when Laura described these two guys to police, she kind of made it seem like they were bad boys or troublemakers, like the type of guys who would go off into the woods and smoke and drink for fun. And so the police just continued to chase down this two guys and a blue Camaro lead until the murder case went cold. But 3 years after Missy was murdered, Eva, who had been threatened by Karen and Laura.
Yeah, of course they were. And that's exactly what I said. Like, if Eva didn't have anything to do with it, that also brings up the situation. Why would you bring another party member along as a witness? Why would you bring a witness? That's not a smart idea. That's pretty much literally how you got caught. Is you brought a witness, man. You know what I'm thinking? What the fuck?
Never to say a word about what she knew, finally came forward to police and told them that Karen and Laura had killed Missy. When Karen, Laura, and Missy became teenagers, Missy really blossomed into this beautiful young woman who everybody seemed to adore. Meanwhile, Laura and Karen...
I mean, look at Laura's picture. She did not. Karen, nothing wrong with Karen. Besides her name, ain't nothing wrong with Karen. She cute. Like she would have, like, a couple years, she would have been very beautiful, man. Like, I don't know what her problem was. It's because she considered herself maybe overweight. I mean, 200 is not that bad, honestly. Like, you know, she got a little bit of thick shoulder going on, but like 200 ain't that bad. You know what I mean? Like, so like I don't know if it was a like self-conscious weight thing. Like, she kind of looks a little bit like a gremlin. Like, she looks gaunt, like maybe she's on crack or meth or something. So like I can understand that. Karen's fine. Just an unfortunate name. Like, why the fuck is she jealous and shit?
Had the opposite experience. They felt awkward in their bodies and felt like no one really liked them.
I mean, Laura, I understand. But Laura did eventually grow into a normal-looking human. Just teenage was not kind to her.
And so in time, they became very jealous of Missy, and that jealousy turned into resentment, and that resentment turned into hatred. And so in 1984, it was Karen and Laura who started that rumor about Missy sleeping with all these boys.
I didn't see that one coming, though. I didn't see that one coming, though. She's the one who got her beaten up the first time and then the second time. Just because they were jelly? Oh, fucking Jelly Clarkson up in this bitch? Becoming a jellyfish? Dog. You know, I was a little bit of a lanky, gangly teen when I was growing up. You know, very tall, not a lot of muscle, not a lot of, you know, no fat or anything. I was pretty tall, lanky, kind of have, you know, a bit of a hunch to myself. You know, I don't usually stand up straight most of the time. So, you know, I wasn't looking too great. And when I got into college, there was one of my roommates, then became a roommate multiple times. Him and a couple other people that were in the same hall as me became roommates multiple times. This dude was fucking good looking. He had these great fucking curls going on. He had curly hair like mine, but they were tighter. My hair is curly when it's longer. If you go look at some of my old videos, you would know that. And dude, this dude literally could get any fucking chick he wanted. And just like, you know, I was like, yeah, I wish I was that. At no fucking point in my life, even being 18, 19, whatever, at no point was it just like, man, I'm so jealous of this good looking dude, I'm gonna kill his ass. I'm gonna fuck up his chances with his girl that he's gonna be engaged soon to, and now they're married, I believe, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're married. I'm gonna fuck his chances. I'm gonna say he's fucking all these other chicks, and then I'm gonna lead him out on a trail and whatnot. I'm gonna kill his ass. Like, girls, ladies, what's going on, man? Like, obviously, not everyone does this. You know, obviously, this is a specific scenario, but like, yo, what's up, girls? Like, what's going on here? Like, y'all need to stop fighting each other based off of, oh, I look good enough to get a bunch of guys. Like, it's not worth it. Start working on yourself. Ignore dating for a while. Do what men do and just work on yourself and your money. Ignore dating and try working on yourself and becoming a good person instead of being jealous. Like, oh, that person looks better than me. They get more guys than I do. Like, you gotta stop. Get some help. Get some fucking help. Oop, I scrolled.
Who had girlfriends. And that lie would get Missy attacked and beat up really badly. But that wasn't enough for Karen and Laura. They felt like Missy deserved worse. And so the following year, in September of 1985, Laura and Karen decided to kill Missy. Their plan began with spreading another rumor about Missy, about how she was sleeping around with boys with girlfriends, except this time the girlfriends in this rumor would be Laura and Karen.
So they knew that wasn't true.
They did this knowing this rumor would start a fight between the three of them, and they knew that Missy just would not be able to be mad at her friends. She would want to make up with them. And so Karen and Laura, they start this rumor. It does cause a big blowout fight between the three of them. But then after this fight, Laura very intentionally makes up with Missy.
Yeah, I told you it was a trap when Karen, especially, but I guess Laura too. When Karen was like, oh, we'll be friends. No. First off, that slap was just a taste. She probably enjoyed that slap, so I can't wait to get more. It's fucked up, man.
Kind of says, hey, you know, let's make things right again. And so she pretends to be friends with Missy. And then a couple of weeks later, on the morning of October 1st, Karen would contact Missy. She would tell her how sorry she was. And she asked her, hey, do you want to get together today, all three of us, just like old times? And Missy fell right into their trap because she was so excited at the prospect of getting to spend time with her two best friends who she really did love. And so she quickly agreed to meet up with them.
There's nothing really wrong with Karen, man. I don't know. She's freaking out, man.
And so Laura and Missy, they
Maybe it's just a weight thing. Maybe she's self-conscious or weird or something. I don't know.
They arrive in the parking lot of Stonehurst Park, and then Karen comes flying in, and there's this huge fight, and there's this 45-minute drive up into the mountains where they reach this parking lot, and Karen...
And again, all this could have potentially been avoided. Obviously, they could have tried again later, but all this potentially could have been avoided if there was a single cop patrolling anywhere in a 45-minute, several-mile span on this fucking road. Like, where the fuck are y'all?
And Laura are fighting with each other, and Missy has no idea what's going on, and then all of a sudden, the fighting stops. Because the fighting wasn't real. It was all rehearsed. Laura and Karen had done that in order to throw Missy off guard and to get her up into this forest up in the mountains where they could kill her. It's unclear why Laura and Karen brought Eva.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. It was just like, but why the fuck? As I was thinking about to say, why the fuck would they bring Eva though? He just immediately was like, it's unclear why. It's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it was pretty unclear to them after they got caught because of her. I'm pretty sure they were just like, why did we do that? I don't even think they knew why Eva was there.
Along, but most likely she was brought along as a decoy as well. After Missy's body
Yeah, it wasn't a smart move, was it?
was found, and the police were on this mad hunt to find these two guys and the blue Camaro, Karen actually moved in to Missy's family's home. She told them she just wanted to offer support during this.
It's always the way it goes, man. It's always the way it goes. That's how I was able to sniff this one out so fast. It's the ones that care the most in these stories that are the victim, or are the criminals. And it's fucking, that's it's like Michelle Carter after she got after she was done convincing her boyfriend to go through with killing himself, because she didn't convince him to kill himself, but she convinced him to go through with it after he was getting out. One a whole long story, we don't need to get into that. But then afterwards she starts reaching out to the family who she never reached out to before, and was just like, oh hey, you know, I want to help, I want to be part of it, you know. It's just like, it's to try to throw him off the scent, but honestly now I'm picking up on that scent every time.
Really difficult time, but in reality she just wanted to keep close tabs on the investigation, and any chance she got, she wanted to make sure she threw police and Missy's family off of her and Laura's trail. And so for months Karen slept in Missy's bed.
That's fucking fuck, dude. You ain't right in the head, Karen. I don't know if you got some problems going on at home, but you ain't right. That's getting off after the kill. Like, you know, some people get off by the kill. That's getting off again after the kill, just sleeping in the bed, just like, yes, I killed you, and now I'm insult to injury, just like resting in your house, tricking your parents. Like, God, you fucking fuck you.
She ate at the same dinner table where Missy would eat with Missy's family, and Karen would spend hours out in the car with Missy's mother, Irene, and other members of Missy's family, driving around looking for clues about where Missy could have gone or who really was responsible for Missy's death. When the truth finally came out 3 years later that Karen and Laura had been the ones who killed Missy, Missy's family could not believe that their daughter's killer was literally living with them the whole time.
If I was them, I would have killed. I don't give a fuck if I went to jail at that point. I would have fucking killed Karen. Like, that's insult to injury after you killed my child. I fed you. I let you sleep on her bed. I would fucking kill that bitch. I don't even give a fuck if I went to jail. For the rest of my life, I wouldn't give a fuck. I'd kill that bitch. I would murder that bitch. And I would just splatter her blood all around Missy's room. And be like, you are avenged, my daughter. I have avenged you. Like, may you know peace now. That she got worse than what she gave you. That would just be me personally, though. Poetic justice. Of, she slept in that bed after killing you. I'm going to make sure her blood in that bed after she killed you. Like, after I kill her for killing you. Something artistically poetic about that. Anyways.
Ultimately, Laura and Karen would be found guilty of killing Missy, and they would each be sentenced to 15 years to life in prison.
Yeah, I was going to say 15. Oh, hey, Karen. You psycho bitch. So they knew. They knew that it wasn't cheating. So there's not that, oh, shit moment. She actually didn't cheat. My bad. They just wanted to kill her because they were jelly. They were peanut butter and jealous. Is there, or now that they're older and their hormones are rapidly controlling their thoughts and their jealousy and stuff like that, do they feel bad? Do you think they feel bad? And I hope 15 wasn't the ended up being the result. It's 15 to life. Hopefully it was a little bit more than 15. Now I wouldn't necessarily say life sentence for that, but I would say at least like 40, 50 years, give or take. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like that would be justifiable. Like, steal most of their life for what they did. If they would, I mean, obviously most people are like, no, fucking give them life. They took a life. Like, I get that. It's just, teenagers. Like, teenagers do dumb shit. And this is the ultimate dumb shit. So, like, I don't know. I'd say giving them a chance of redemption and to heal their soul and to heal the world, maybe to try to go out and do right for how much wrong that they did. Give them a chance at redemption, but not for at least a good half of their life. They definitely need to be severely punished for this bullshit.
Karen Severson was paroled in December of 2011.
Whoa, that's recent. That's very recent. So that's a good 21, 22 years. Okay.
And Laura Doyle was paroled a year later in December of 2012.
So they got a good 20, 23 years in there. I think a little bit longer would have probably been called for, but they at least didn't get off like 10. You know what I mean? Like, oh, good behavior. They at least didn't get 10. Under 15, so I'll take it. I don't necessarily agree with it, but that's better than like, oh, they were doing all right. We're getting about 5 years later, some bullshit like that. So,
so that's gonna do it. If you got something out of today's episode,
I didn't know that Mr. B posted links and stuff about information on the trials and stuff like that and whatnot. I very much want to go watch interviews or whatever with them, maybe before, after, both, whatever, to see if at any point they felt bad about what they did, after some more maturity happens, because obviously Karen's just fucking baddie. It's fucking batshit. I'm sure Lauren is a little bit too. Laura is a little bit too, but I wonder if there's any point where they just really feel fucking horrible about it, So they got out, let's see, 20 years. They were around 17, 18, probably 18 when they ended up getting into jail, because our court system takes fucking almost like a year plus to actually settle any kind of cases. It's efficient. What are you going to do? So they're probably 18 when they went in there, about 21, 22 years. So they're around 40 when they got out. So that is at least a good, probably around half of their life that they spent in jail. At least not like, I would say maybe like a third of their life when they got in jail. So now they're like 50. So I wonder if there's any point they felt fucking remorse. You know what I mean? I feel really bad for Missy. It's just that's horrible. People, if there's anything to take away from this one here, because I forgot about takeaways. The last one would just been that we need to fix our police system, and police need to be held accountable for them not doing their fucking jobs. But for this one, Um, uh, I mean, teenagers, man, like they're so stupid, and their hormones just control their feelings and their actions and their ideas and stuff, and it just makes them do crazy, stupid shit. And this is the craziest and stupidest shit. Like, this is like peak and top, man. It's just, the teenagers are fucking insane, man. Like, but just, so obviously the ovaries before brovaries and bros before hoes doesn't even really work here, because they knew that it wasn't true, because they started the rumors. They were just jealous. Like, I guess the message that we can take away from this is, guys, you'll get there. Like, not everyone gonna look good in their teenage years. A lot of people won't. I mean, you might think that you look good, but you don't. But eventually you will. And you can work on that. Even when you're in high school, you can get a gym membership. Your parents hook you up with a gym membership or something. Go work out. I mean, I know this was the 80s and stuff, so maybe jazzercise, whatever the fuck they were doing back then. It was like yoga outfit dance stuff, go do some of that, There's things you could do about it, man. Like, you can go work on yourself to get maybe the body you're looking for, or to look more attractive. Go work on certain muscles that you want to show off. Like, go work on them glutes, go work on them abs and stuff, you could, and then just with age in general, you will grow into your body. Like, no one looks good in their body when they're young. Trust me, when you get older and you look, everyone looks fucking lanky as hell when they're growing up. Like, parts of your body are growing, but the other ones aren't. So you just look like this tall, like, Slender Man monster. Like, trust me, it happens. Like, it's just part of growing up, man. Like, don't kill someone because they look better than you. Like, and get like, I feel like mandatory therapy should be required for, like, every teenager in the world. Like, I think schools should just have, well, if schools have more money, they should just have, like, therapists on retainer, and, like, everyone's required, like, even if it's just once a month or something, to go see a therapist or something, or have multiple therapists. Anyways, it should be, like, required. You should have to prove that your kid is seeing a therapist, because being a teenager is hard, man. And maybe talking this shit out would be better than getting advice from an adult, maybe an adult that you trust. It's like, hey, yeah, some people bloom faster than others. It's okay, you will too. Just work on yourself, work on your grades, work on your career, and everything else is just going to happen. It's just going to come. Maybe that would help prevent this kind of stuff. So, you know what? Maybe to help keep, if I ever do have a kid, to keep them from killing me, because that seems to be all the kids do these days, is just kill people. Especially their parents, but also their friends, apparently. I'm going to make sure that they're in therapy. Like, even if there doesn't seem anything wrong with them, just actually go check out therapy at least once every 1 to 2 weeks, You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm going to do. Keep them from killing me, maybe keep them from killing someone else. Because growing up's hard, man. And apparently it's too hard for a lot of people. So that's the message of the day. Bros before hoes, ovaries before brovaries, and don't kill people just because, for any reason really, but unless, like, they killed your family or something, then yeah, go ahead and kill them. But it's a great message. I mean, I wouldn't blame you if you did. I would, but just putting that one out there. So I'm saying, who would I be to judge other people for doing it? Because I know I would. But yeah, don't kill people in general, but especially don't kill them just because they're more attractive than you. It's really not a reason to do it. So, thank you also very much for joining me. That's not where I thought that I was going, and I will see you all next time.